Hi YouTube, welcome to or back to the channel. I hope you guys are excited for today's video. This is a different style for us to do, but I thought with so many people asking questions about Brax and I's relationship and us getting back together, I guess I realized we never really said anything. We just kind of showed back up on camera. So I thought we would do a video kind of supporting other people that have gone through similar situations and kind of tell you guys how we got back to the point that we're at now. We obviously have been through a lot. You guys know, if you've been here through the journey, that we've had to deal with a lot of things that people should probably never have to go through, especially as parents. So I think we've done a really good job like navigating coming back together. We definitely didn't know if it was going to be possible when we first kind of talked about working on things and getting back together, but I'm happy to say that we're in a really good place now, and I feel like we can kind of share some of our experience and, I don't know, help out some people hopefully that are dealing with similar things. So I'll definitely say, like, we've talked about it obviously whenever we've posted things in the past, but the NICU experience itself is just like so hard on you as a person, but then as a couple it's like you can never really, I feel like, match what the other person needs because you don't have enough to give. And so I felt like we were constantly in this struggle of like, we were both struggling, so it was hard to like lift the other one up and support the other person whenever, you know, you're barely keeping your head above water, just because it's like, I don't know, it's just so hard. And then you're seeing the other person like struggle and not being able to like really help. It's just, I don't know, it's a very unique experience, I guess.
Yeah, not to discount from anybody's NICU experience, but like our experience was just unexpected and complex. Like, we went to the hospital like not even knowing she had to have done what she had to have done, and then like within 24 hours we were having triplets. And so, you know, they were already unexpected, but then like 27 weeks premature, not even having bags packed, nothing, like being told we could have to stay in the hospital for weeks at a time because COVID was like whatever, and like you couldn't leave, you couldn't do anything. And so that was like just a start, and like that was pretty much the tip of the iceberg to project our journey, because I mean after that it just kind of went downhill.
We were like pretty good at first. Like I feel like right after I had the boys we were really solid and like going to see the boys, which that was exhausting, but we were like working as a team and, you know, just like kind of telling each other when the other one needed breaks from going to the hospital and whatever else. But then I think it was probably around the time where they should have been like starting to come home, and we realized it was going to be a lot longer than anticipated. It was like I knew at a very early time that Ezra was probably going to need a trach, just because I had done so much research on it and I saw like how sick he was and how much progress, like, or I guess how little progress he was making. And I kind of just like knew after we had this like last meeting at the first hospital that we were at that he was probably going to need a trach. And I feel like at that point, and finding out like none of them were going to come home by their due date, because that was like the biggest thing. That's what they told us.
When they were born, like that first week, they were like, yeah, like they'll be home by their due date August 3rd, so like this is all temporary. And like I was a first time parent, you know, so I don't know a lot about any of this stuff, and let alone like the medical issues. I know nothing about any of that stuff. And so like you're getting fed all these things that's not really a big deal, but it's like they have to tell you. So if you're naive and don't know a lot about it, then it is a big deal. And so it was just like constant, every time we go there it was just like bad news for like the first like 2 months. It was just like, oh yeah,
longer than that, I feel like.
I mean, probably, but it was just like, oh, you know, like they need a blood transfusion, or Ezra's maxed out on the vent today, Daxon has to go to Children's Mercy, like we can't even fix him. And then Croy was just like, Croy was the most consistent, but like he's still like, his blood count's low, or, you know, it was just something every day. So it was just exhausting. And like when I don't know that stuff and Aubrey knows that stuff, and like I can research it, but I still don't understand it because I don't have the medical background she does, it was just very exhausting. And it took a lot out of me just because, you know, I had to be the rock and like hold her steady and like keep us above water, and she's barely floating, and then it's like I'm barely floating because I don't really even know what's going on. I'm just, you know, going with what I'm told. And so, you know, when you go down that path for 19 months, it's, I don't know how you can recover from that. And then it's like Daxon left to go to Children's Mercy from St. Luke's, and he was, you know, that was like the first week he was born because they were supposed to fix him. And then like he didn't get fixed for like what, 4 or 5 months. And so then we were going to 2 hospitals 4 to 5 times a week while trying to maintain my career for one, which completely took a huge hit when all this happened. Aubrey was just like trying to get by and like keep us together.
I was trying to still do YouTube, but I was like uncomfortable filming in the hospital, so that was like a big barrier that I had to get over. And then also just the mental aspect of like how exhausting it is to try and work whenever you're dealing with
like, and that's both of us. Like, you know how hard it was to like go to the hospital and then just be like, oh, I also have to work or find something to do, or, you know, I have to maintain my life still and like try to take care of us. And so it was just like crash and burn for, you know, however long they were in the NICU.
Well, even this current conversation, like, we haven't really, like, what we're talking about right now, we haven't even talked about the relationship side, and that's kind of the point, is like, our relationship was on the back burner.
Completely.
Like, we didn't even
spend time together.
Yeah, we barely did anything together. Well, first of all, we would like feel guilty for doing anything really outside the hospital.
The whole time
like,
they were at the NICU, like, even
it was so hard. And then like, you know, throw in one kid coming home and then 2 still being at the hospital, and then 2 and 3 still being at the, or, you know, 1 still being at the hospital. It was just like,
and nobody knows how to do any of this complex medical stuff besides us that we barely know.
So then we had to teach everyone,
and then nobody was comfortable watching the kids because they didn't know how to run the feeding pump or Daxon's oxygen.
Hospital is an hour away.
Yeah.
Something's always happening every single time. It never failed that every time we would leave the house,
there was a problem.
There was a problem. Every single time. We would go to dinner and it'd be like, hey, Daxon's G-tube fell out. One time we like had to take him in the middle of the night. We were there till like 6 a.m. just for them to tell us that we could have put it back in at home after they told us we couldn't. It was just so much. And I mean, I don't know how like 2 people even, we shouldn't have even like, I don't even know how we've like made our way back. And I don't know, looking back, like we were just talking about this probably like last week, how there's like, we have so many lapses in our memory of like the NICU, and I think it's like truly because it was so traumatic. We just like,
it's very cloudy for me. Like some of it is just like, I'll be like, oh, do you remember when this happened? I'm like, no, really. I don't. But you also have to understand, like, there's a lot going on in that, you know, amount of time, and it's like when you're in that moment, it's going by so slow, but then like when you're outside of the moment, it's went by so fast.
Yeah.
But like besides Ezra's was just like a train wreck, because I mean that was 19 months of just
Ezra's was horrible. And then by that time, I mean, we had so much going on with the other 2 and so many
not to mention that Dax and Ezra both almost died.
Yeah, so that's a whole different conversation. Well,
Ezra almost died on Christmas Eve. They were like, yeah, we don't know if he's gonna make it.
We had COVID, so we couldn't go see him.
Daxon
at all. We were
about lost a whole lung. So like just try to juggle all that, and then plus like all the trauma and the news and like the medical issues that like you don't know about. And then you have to maintain a normal life of like working and social life and love life. And it's like we just completely, and it wasn't even intentional. It was just like it just got put on the back burner. We didn't have time to do anything, for one, and for 2, it was just like so hard to do anything because we either had guilt, or we didn't have babysitters, or we were busy, or I had to work, or she had something. Like it was just like so hard to even like stay on track with the relationship, with friends, with family. Like I've lost family. Like it's just been such a journey, and those kids are the best thing that's ever happened to me, but they've definitely like,
they took it out of us.
Made my life a lot more complex, and like threw a wrench into everything, you know. Even now today, like it's so hard to just get all 3 of them out to do something, and by the time you get them in the car, you're just like, just stay home.
It's a lot. I mean, we try our best to like obviously take them to do stuff and like let them live, but it's like, whew, sometimes it's hard, and it's just gonna get easier. I mean, it's already gotten, you know, a lot easier even since just Ezra's came home. But I think like another thing with me that I really struggled with, Braxton, since he didn't have like such an understanding of like medical stuff, he like panicked heavily. Like it was always worst case scenario with him because he just didn't really understand things. And so for me, I felt like I always had to be like, it's fine, like it's really not that big of a deal. But meanwhile, I was like not good. Like I was panicked on the inside, but like I felt like I kind of had to like keep it together for him because I didn't want him to get super stressed out about like what was going on with their health. And so it was like I had to kind of keep that to myself and then like vent to other people about it. Like I would tell my mom, and it was funny because my mom actually told me, she was like, we had thought at one point like Kroy could have like CP, and we didn't know any sort of, I mean, I had to look it up, and then that was just bad because again, you don't want to ever like Google things, but there's such like a huge spectrum with that. And of course, like we wouldn't have loved him any different, obviously, but it's still like detrimental news at the time. And I remember like telling Braxton like, it's fine, like it could be one little thing, and meanwhile I was like having a whole meltdown. And so I like went and like talked to my mom about it, and my mom was like so strong and solid for me. And then she told me later that like as soon as I left the room, she was like bawling for like 2 days straight because she was so stressed out for us. And it's just like, just things like that, you don't realize how much it takes a toll on like each person and like even people surrounding us. You know, it was hard because we really thought we were gonna have more support than we did, and that was another like huge letdown, I feel like. And that's like a whole different topic of conversation we're not gonna get into, but like you expect you know, your friends and family to like be there and rally behind you. And then we started realizing like we really didn't have as much support as we thought we were going to have going into it. And it was really hard, like, you know, trying to work through that. And at times, you know, we knew we had a small group of people that were kind of our rocks, but they still could never understand like the things we were going through. So at the end of the day, we were the only two, and will always be the only two people who truly understand like the journey that we've had. And so I think it's just, you know, when you have
a bond that we share.
Again, not that any NICU experience is discounted, because any amount of time, like, it's traumatic. Like, even a day in the NICU, like, I understand 100%.
It was like 10 years.
But, you know, I feel like people who have had, you know, a couple month NICU stay, they can at least still, like, talk to someone else who's been through that. Whereas we had so many things that were like, Daxon had, you know, a genetic thing that was like 1 in 4,000. Meanwhile, the triplets were 1 in 10,000. They all got feeding tubes. Like, it's just unheard of, all of the things that they've had to go through. And so it was just hard not being able to have anybody else, and it obviously like weighed on us and
impacted our relationship.
I mean, I even tried to go to therapy for a while, and it did like help, but at the end of the day, that's still like a person that doesn't truly understand. And so I think that's where like a lot of it stemmed from. And then we just, you know, split and, you know, had just a really rough time when that happened. And I obviously made like a lot of mistakes during that time period and like really kind of fell off for a while, and definitely had to find myself again. And I think, you know, it did help that Braxton and I like really, we started as like enemies when we broke up. Then we were like, we really need to do better at like co-parenting and being there for the kids. Like, that's our main focus. So we focused on that, kind of like found ourselves, like let ourselves kind of have time to just breathe for a little bit, I feel like, because we just really hadn't had that time. And, you know, Ezra had just come home. We split up in the midst of that, like in the midst of him coming home.
We split up in November. Ezra came home in December. And I moved out the beginning of December, so it was like very hard.
It was just all like one thing after another.
Didn't spend, I mean, obviously I came back for, I moved out in November. I came back for like obviously holidays and stuff, and like I was here to help like during the week and stuff, but I mean,
he would stay here whenever I would stay somewhere else or whatever. So it
was very toxic, that part of it, and very, especially for me, mentally draining, because like other things were going on, and like I had to come back to this because my kids were here, and they're so like at the time so medically complex. Like it would have made no sense for me to get my own place, because it would have just been so hard to transport them back and forth, and like I would have had to get Escalade at this point to like transport them. And so it was just a whole bunch of factors. And so like at the time it was just, you know, easier for me to just come back here when she's not here, you know, still stay, help. Ezra was just home, so like we both had that learning curve of like adjusting to that, having nurses and like 10 different random people that we had take care of Ezra when he first came home that we've never seen again, but like they just worked to help us, which thank you guys so much. But it was just like strangers in our house the first like month he was home.
Yeah, and like you have to put your trust into someone else to take care of your kid. And, like,
that you don't know at all.
Have
you won't
no
see
idea
again.
Yeah, and so it's just like that's a whole different ball game. I mean, we're running on like little to no sleep, and I don't know. I think it really took cracking and like shattering, getting ran over by a semi truck to like just completely break us. And then I don't know, I feel like we kind of slowly found ourselves again outside of our relationship, and then we became kind of like friends again.
We're not going to contribute like the whole NICU thing to like why we broke up, but it was probably 75% of like what led to us breaking up, because like Aubrey's mental health went downhill. I started experiencing like mental health issues through all of this, like depression, anxiety. I felt like I was just like in a cloud all the time, and like we tried our best to, you know, like take care of it, but then it's like when you're just going through so much, you just kind of lose yourself sometimes, and that's, you know, if you have to take care of your mental health through all of this. So like I would suggest like, you know, talking to other parents or joining groups.
Yeah, support groups are
Facebook
so helpful.
groups, support groups. The NICU has counselors. They have like don't they have like parent meetings and stuff?
Yeah,
like
and they have
parents have been through the NICU experience and stuff.
I mean, not everybody's NICU is probably going to be as big as ours, but there's a lot of like resources that you can find, and a lot of like organizations online that you can find that are like super supportive. I'll list some of them for you guys.
And like we didn't really utilize all of
we were just kind of like waste of time, but I do think it would have helped.
We should have, because it would have helped us in our own way to like keep ourselves together and stay together through that whole process. But
in couples like therapy on your own, but also couples therapy, I think we should have definitely like done that and gone through that. But I guess as far as like now what we're doing, I don't know, we're just like really,
it's like
for the
a
first
whole
time,
different
prioritizing
relationship now.
We're just like fully prioritizing our relationship.
Kind of just
took a trip together.
Kind of
mini trip.
Prioritizing ourselves individually first, and then that allows us to prioritize our relationship, because like Aubrey had to like get completely broken down to build herself back up, and like she's just on top of everything now. And like same for me, honestly. Like I went through so much through that whole time of like the breakup, and you know, the stuff that I had to go through and the stuff I had to do to, you know, just continue and push by. And so like you just kind of have to, you know, evaluate yourself and your decisions
like,
and mistakes.
Put ourselves first. And people are always like, how do you do that as parents? But like you really have to. Like we're the prime examples of like if you don't put yourself first and your relationship first, you're gonna fail. Like it's never gonna work. You have to take time for yourself, put yourself first, and then the relationship, because at the end of the day, that is the foundation for your kids. And so it's like if your relationship isn't good, like you're not parenting good either. And so I think a lot of people struggle with that, like, oh, my kids have to come first. And they do, of course, but they can't come first if you don't take care of yourself. Like it has to go in that order, I feel like. And so we've just really been doing a lot more activities together. Like I think we've both kind of like met in the middle. Like he does stuff that I want to do, like watch my favorite TV shows. He'll like sit with me now and watch a couple episodes of like a favorite TV show because I like that. I've been going to the gym and working out with him, or doing other like physical activities because he likes that. And so
she likes that too, though.
I do, yeah, but I got back into the gym because I was like, I need to. Well, I feel better about myself.
And you're 20 times better now since you've been back in the gym.
Yeah. Just finding, you know, he's been like really working on his art stuff still, and I've been still like reading books and doing stuff. You know, we have our identities as a couple now, and then also separate, and then as parents, like you just have multiple like versions of yourself, and I feel like that's totally okay. And like you just have to be able to survive, you know, and you can't parent good if you're not good yourself. And so I think that's like what's really brought us back together, is like focusing on ourselves and then focusing so much on our relationship. And it's like better now than it's, I feel like, probably ever been, because even at the beginning of our relationship we had like a lot of obstacles. I had like a lot of insecurities and things I had to work through from past trauma and previous, you know, unhealthy relationships. And so I think at this point we've both been through so much, and we both like, you know, figured out what's like really important and prioritized it, and now we're just kind of like unstoppable. We're a force right now.
Force to be reckoned with.
That's right.
But yeah, you know, it's not been an easy journey. We just celebrated our 5 years, minus the little breakup we had. You know, it's probably like the best anniversary we've had, just because like I just felt like we were complete and like okay, you know, because it's been,
it was so fun.
The last like 2 or 3 years have just been such a spin cycle that you couldn't really just have our bearings. And so I feel like now we're just like, you know, our kids are healthy for the most part, and you know, they're all home, and we can
our definition of healthy and everyone else's versions are so
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
it's so good. In our eyes, we're doing
in our
good,
eyes,
so.
our kids are healthy. So you know, you just have to choose your person every day and do stuff your person wants you to do, and you know, help your person and love your person. You know,
speak their love language. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Day by day, one day at a time, we're getting stronger and
better. Yeah, and you know, we went through a lot in that short amount of time, but here we are, and it's better than ever. And I wrote a quote a couple years ago that was like, "Don't die trying to survive." You know, you just have to get through and take care of yourself, because that's how you'll survive. Don't try to like scrape by and, you know,
and like no matter what situation you're in, like it really does get better. Like it does. It doesn't matter if it's like the outcome that you wanted. I'm not gonna say it's always like gets easy by any means. It gets easier, but it always gets better from, you know, what it is, whatever the trench that you're in, or whatever part of like your journey. Even if you're not like on a NICU journey and you're just in like having a rough time, or you know, going through a separation or a divorce, you know, it's just eventually it does get better. You just have to push through like the really hard times. And so
all right, and that's a wrap. And sorry for rambling, but I guess we had a lot to talk about. Could make it in 2-part, but it's a little too much information. But
if you guys want to see more content like this, or you have suggestions, you know, we're always open to hearing whatever you guys want to see on the channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, even though it was a little bit different. And we love you guys. We appreciate how many of you have supported us during this journey. It's crazy how many people we've reached, and we hope that we're able to help you guys and support you too during your journeys. So love you lots. If you guys need anything, put them down in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
Peace, love, happiness.